Happy weekend of July 4th, everybody. Hopefully everybody has survived the fireworks. Ready for some summer screens now? Well, Netflix has dialed up a body count in their latest entry in the horror genre. And The Conjuring keeps on scaring. It's probably the biggest horror franchise of the summer, that is for sure. Welcome to the Scare Guy Show, the official podcast of thescareguy.com. On scaring is probably where we as filmmakers discuss horror films, haunt events, spooky news, and anything that's scary fun. I think some ghosts are in the details here. I was hearing a little bit of feedback there. But listen, my name's Jim Fry. I am a writer and the editor-in-chief of thescareguy.com and also theconguy.com. We love coming at you guys every week. My co-host and fellow writer for the night is Cheeseman.
Hey everybody, it's Cheeseman with thescareguy.com. I'm also a screenwriter and also work with theconguy.com.
And we have an amazing guest coming on tonight. You've seen her on the long-running CBS hit How I Met Your Mother, Grey's Anatomy, The Resident, NCIS, and a super long list of stuff. You should check out her IMDb page. She's been in a lot. And you've also seen her in the films American Reunion. I loved it. Authors Anonymous and Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. But this summer, Charlene Amoia is helping to put a bit of the chill in the air with her turn in two of the biggest Fright franchises to hit Hollywood right now, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is so stinking intense, guys. I loved that film. And the just-released Fear Street Part 1, 1994 on Netflix. Charlene, huge welcome to the Scare Guy Show. So glad to have you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. What a great intro. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm sure did I butcher your last name? I'm so terrible with names.
No, you didn't butcher it. It's Amoia. Very
Amoia.
Close.
Oh, yeah. It's so much better than what I said, though. Amoia. And the thing was, like, we've actually met before, and so I knew how to say your last name, but then I was like, wait. So, but I'm just
don't feel bad. I get very strange variations of Amoia. So it's Hawaiian sometimes. It's all kinds of ethnicity. So don't worry about it. It's lots of vowels.
That's cool. Well, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just got back from a nice trip to Utah and visited some national parks. So getting back into the groove of things here in LA.
That's very cool.
Great way to celebrate Independence Day. Just in case people watch this at a later date, this is the day after Independence Day that we're filming. And we went down to Huntington Beach, celebrated, lots of American flags. So
cool.
Really cool seeing the fireworks on the water there.
Yeah, was it crowded?
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was crowded. America was ready to celebrate again. We've been having to kind of keep inside for a long time. So this was it was good to see everybody out and waving the flag and just having a good time. It was fantastic.
It is nice to have people out again.
Yeah. But we are here to talk to you about a couple of things. It was kind of cool because we were just talking to her before the show, and she was like, I didn't know you guys were big horror fans. We're the biggest horror fans. We absolutely love it. And that's why it was kind of really cool and exciting to see that you were a part of probably like the two biggest horror franchises of the summer. The Fear Street on Netflix, which is currently, it just got released a couple of days ago, but it's already at number 3. And it's promising to be a pretty big presence on Netflix. And boy, I tell you what, your part, I know you don't have the giantest part, but it was really cool to see you in there. And you were probably, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the favorite 10 minutes of the movie, you had a part in there, and that was really cool. That was really cool to see you in there.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I really liked the opening too. I thought it was a great homage to 90s horror films, and I was happy to be part of it.
Cheeseman.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Let's get to know you, and our audience can know you a little better. So what kind of was your start? What got you into acting? What brought you to LA or wherever you've been living over the years and getting into acting?
Well, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, but my dad had moved to Vegas when I was 15, so I moved out there with him. And he had a girl who worked in his company that was shoe modeling, and she had asked me to sub for her because she couldn't do the show. And it was shoe modeling, you just have to have a sample size foot. And so I took that job, which was a week in a convention. And from that point, her agent signed me and started sending me auditions. So it wasn't something that I thought of or pursued. I kind of just fell into the world a little bit. And on the very first audition they sent me, I felt a sort of hit, like a high of, I don't know what that was, but I need to follow it. And so when I graduated school, I decided to move to LA and just blindly enter the business. It took a couple years once I got to LA to get going, but I booked a couple commercials, started doing voiceover work right away, and then got on a couple soaps and eventually a sitcom, and then led to How I Met Your Mother and various credits throughout the years.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that I've been able to keep working all these years. It probably took a good year and a half to figure out anything, and this business is challenging to stick with because you always have to be relevant, and you never know when it's going to be your last job. So there's always that underneath each one. But I feel very blessed that I've been able to somehow keep booking once in a while to keep it going.
Nice.
Well, it seems like you're on a nice hot streak right now, so we hope that continues for you. And Netflix is definitely a great place to be. Now,
Did
like,
we lose
what
Luke?
were your influences, kind of like growing up? Was there certain actresses?
Charlene,
Can you
can
say
you
that
still
when?
hear?
Yeah, can you say that again? Because I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, you were gone for just a second, Luke. Can you ask that one more time?
I'm sorry. So like, what were like the actresses or actors that kind of influenced you like to get into acting? Did you have any inspirations?
You know, interestingly, early on, because I wasn't like I said, I didn't seek acting. Just to speak of a hit 90s movie, I was obsessed with Clueless as a young girl. So I liked her, and Natalie Portman and Anne Hathaway, and Johnny Depp was someone I was, I followed pretty much everything he did and read all of his books, or books written about him. So that was before I really had any idea of craft or what acting was all about. That just, I was just interested in. And later on, probably like 7 years ago, I ended up booking a pilot with Alicia Silverstone, which kind of hit that little girl in me that was just, watching that movie every weekend. It was called HR, and it was for Lifetime. So that moment was like, it was like, whoa, like, how did I get here? I never thought this would be. And I sent it to one of my best friends, and she started crying because, we watched that movie all the time. But once I started studying acting, you study the greats and Daniel Day-Lewis and Meryl Streep, and, you start to notice, all the details and nuances that you can add with character development and how fun it can be.
Cool. Let's talk for a second. Well, not for a second, for a couple of minutes, because there is a film out right now, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which it's huge. It is huge. It's part of a franchise that is kind of redefined how ghost stories are told. It does it. It's very elegant. It's very stylish, and it's not like just the schlocky stuff of the past. Although I love the schlocky stuff of the past, but in The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, the famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, they investigate the case of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, who claims to have killed his landlord under the influence of a demon. And the way that the movie depicts it, the demon existed within a young boy named David Glatzel, and you play the mother, Judy Glatzel, of this young boy. How much research did you have to do? Because this is an actual case. This is an actual historic event that happened. There's a lot of newspaper articles about it. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your character, Judy, and maybe how she relates to the historical Judy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually happened in Connecticut in 1981, and once I was cast, I was put in touch with the real Debbie Glatzel, which would have been my daughter, and her husband, who is Arnie. So who
Oh, wow.
this movie is about. So I was able to, as well as Sarah Catherine, who played her, and Rory, who played Arnie. We were all able to talk to them. So I called one day and, you know, spoke to them for about 2 hours and just got their story. I mean, as far as research, there's nothing better than the real source. And this is a case of, you know, if you come from a religious background, of real spiritual warfare. And also, they did come to set to visit at some point during shooting. So we got to meet them during lunch and, you know, just hear all the details of what really happened. So aside from there's been books and news articles, just being able to talk to them and hear their story was the best way to approach something like this.
Wow. And Luke, I'll throw it to you in just 1 second, but like when you were how important was you talk with the daughter? I mean, that's the people involved with the case. I didn't know that you guys had that kind of access to research, because when you were doing this and portraying this, how intense was it to portray what was going on? Because like you said, for people of religious faith, this is a very intense moment, and it wasn't, you know, this wasn't like a poltergeist, you know, this wasn't just play. This was like a lot of people believe that this actually occurred, and this was something, a real battle that was going on. How intense was that to portray that?
Right. Well, that was very much scripted. So, you know, doing the scene with David being possessed, and we had a little girl that came in and did basically the acrobats of him bending when that was going on. But yeah, originally the script changed a little bit because the villain was called the Beast, and it changed to be a witch, you know, that was orchestrating this all. But it you know, one of the parts that I don't think that they showed very much, because there were some changes, were during the whole possession, David had stabbed my husband in the leg, and I was up there, you know, fixing the wound while they were downstairs holding David's body down as Lorraine, as you know, when the Warrens were basically exorcising or trying to exorcise him at that point. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting shooting things, because in between takes you laugh and you have fun, and you could sometimes watch the take and try different things. But visually, you know, when I was watching this little girl bend herself like that, it's pretty intense. Yeah. And I think that's pretty unique to this film too, to see a child in that kind of state.
Yeah. Jeez, man.
Speaking of children, can you tell us about the little boy that you played your son in it, and what it was like working with him?
Yeah, the thing that I noticed about him is he was just incredibly smart. And I think children of that age, when they're working a lot, they pick things up fast. They're very versatile. They're directable. And he was sweet, and he was having fun. You know, we saw his bug collection, and yeah, I think children. He was nice to work with. You know, he felt like a young adult.
That's cool.
Yeah, there was a scene that got rewritten once they changed it from the Beast to the Witch, where we were all in the unit where Rory's character, Arnie, was having a hard time, and we were all praying over him. And originally, like, we were adding some Latin, and that was a bit much for him because he was a child. So we kind of said the Lord's Prayer together instead. And just being able to kind of go with the flow in a moment because that can be intimidating to an adult actor. But yeah, I think he's a brilliant little kid. Not so little anymore. I don't know if you guys saw him on WandaVision yeah, he's been working a lot.
Wow. It's I don't like to. Well, sometimes if you ask somebody the question, "Do you believe in ghosts?" Everyone avoids that question, and rightly so. But I personally, I grew up a church background, and most of us on the podcast we met through either church or something like that. I mean, we're not a religious podcast, but I know that and I'm not gonna ask you about your religious faith, but I'm gonna ask you, have you ever experienced anything that you perceived was unexplainable, that might have bumped you a little bit? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I definitely believe in spiritual warfare, and I do. I wasn't raised with any religion, but I came into it about 5-6 years ago on my own, and have had experiences that are tangible and supernatural. Not necessarily spooky. Like, I don't feel like I've had bad ones. I feel like I've had good ones, but because of that, it makes an awareness. I have an awareness of all of it, and I think that might have something to do with why walking into this film I was cautious.
Yeah.
Because you hear the stories about like all the actors that were in Poltergeist, and even when I was filming this, there actually were a few spooky things while I was filming. The car that I had, the brakes were just not working right, and so I took an Uber the first day, but the Uber took me to a graveyard and was like, I don't know why I'm here. And I'm like,
oh, that's bizarre.
Yeah. So it was kind of, I was just like, yeah, because the spirits have a sense of humor. This is funny, And we had a bishop that came and baptized the house that we were in. And so I had the opportunity to have dinner with him and the nuns that, were involved. They also were on Ghost Hunters. I don't know if you guys watch that show.
Yeah.
So they're really cool people, and just listening to some of their stories and exorcisms. And I fully believe in the spiritual world.
Yep. We do too.
Yeah.
But we don't assume everybody does, but it's because that is kind of like a touchy subject for some people. But like when making a film like this, it's kind of cool to hear you describe how the filmmakers went to great care with the subject matter, because people do perceive it different directions, but there could be some funny business that goes on if you're not careful with what you're messing with something like this, Yeah.
And it was interesting on set to have the real people show up, because people that believe in the spiritual world can understand and maybe accept this premise and this story. But if you don't, then you're just looking at the fact that somebody got murdered, and that can be jarring. And I heard some people, you talk about that on set. So yeah.
I definitely like the way that, because I feel like I've had experiences in my life. I try to not watch too much of like the dark kind of ghost or demonic type stuff, because I feel like it triggers something or makes me kind of like wanting to sleep with like music on or some sort of something. But watching this one, it was cool to see this couple, because it really gave kind of like more of like a power to them that they had, and had kind of a positive message versus just like, oh, we're just trying to be weird, grotesque, or some walking backwards just to gross you out, to freak you out. Like, it felt like it really did have a strong story behind it with this couple and what they were doing. And there was like a power behind them as well.
Yeah. But, I mean, the Warren Files and all these cases that are in the Conjuring movies, the 3 and probably whatever comes after that, he was very religious, and, she was prophetic or psychic, or however you want to look at that. And I do feel like they were using those gifts to help people in circumstances where maybe they wouldn't have been believed and didn't know where to turn. So it is it's a nice story of people helping people, and you know, in a very specific arena.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was encouraging though, because you know I am familiar with the Warrens, and they were very serious about what they did. They weren't just playing around. You know, they weren't just Ghostbusters. Although I love that movie, but they you know this was serious business for them, and they had a deep faith. Hey, let's talk. Can we ask you about something a little bit perhaps less weighty, a little bit bloodier maybe, but Fear Street.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of a crazy, cool, funny. It is funny, but it's a crazy film, and it's made more for just pure entertainment. Although it does have some underlying messages to it. But can you tell us a little bit about from what you understand, where this film came from? What was it? Because apparently it's based on some books, right?
Right. So it's, you know, there are R.L. Stein books, who he's famous for Goosebumps, and so this I do think it was a throwback to the 90s and super fun and a bit campy, but for anybody who was alive during that time, it was nostalgic. I really enjoyed the opening scene that I got to be in, and you know, as it reminded me of Drew Barrymore and Scream scene, and then the soundtrack. It was just so fun, and so R.L. Stein is basically horror for children and horror for teenagers. So this was his teenager books, but it was even though it is gory, it feels very light. Still, like, never did I get afraid watching it, which I appreciated. Yeah,
I was sitting there when I was watching. I'm older than both of you guys by a good bit. So, and I remember I was watching, and Luke was there, and I was like, wow, they're really laying on the 90s music here. And Luke was like, this is awesome. And it did. It felt a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. Cheeseman.
Now, can you tell us about that opening scene that you were in and what it was like working with Maya Hawke?
Yeah. It was really nice. We got to talking, and she's a very interesting girl, and very open and warm and easy to hang out with. And I liked watching her in that scene because, like, pretty much each take, she improvised a little differently, and she's very creative and not by the book so much. You know, she brought a lot to the role, a lot of quirk, and a lot of personality, which I think was so great for the opening of this movie. I really enjoyed watching her, you know, just handling the business in the bookstore all the way through, you know, getting killed. I thought she did it perfectly.
She was fantastic. And you know, one of my favorite parts is it's B. Dalton Bookstore. It is the 90s all the way. Right. I loved it. And it was the mall, and it felt really cool. And then there was Spencer's next door in the other store.
Yeah.
Were you guys filming in an actual mall, or were these sets?
Yeah, it was an actual mall.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It looked great.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, the director is married to a co-creator of Stranger Things. So I don't know if that's how they reached out to Maya, since she's done a couple seasons of that. But I think that they might have used a mall like that, either that mall or one similar in Stranger Things. But yeah, it was a real mall. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's been operating. When we shot it, I'm not sure if it had been operating for a while. But yeah, it was a fun set.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the director, what was it like working with him?
So is she? Her name is
Lee. Sorry.
She was great. I loved Lee. I loved working with Lee. I mean, I was only there for the day, but very nice, just really down to earth. Very approachable. And I had to go in and ADR part of that line in post recently, and you know, we had been emailing back and forth a couple times. The first time I ADR'd it, I did it on my phone before we could get into studio because of COVID. So yeah, she's just a real person doing the thing, and I'm happy for her success. I really enjoyed working with her.
And can I ask, the book that your character was purchasing, is that the book on which was that an R.L. Stine book, which the series is based?
I don't remember.
I don't think it was, but it was but it was so cool. It set the theme of like scary books, and this is what's going to happen. I thought that was a really clever way to introduce this. Apparently, it's a trilogy, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that now. It's gonna drive me nuts.
It's driving me nuts. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking.
Yeah.
But that was great. It was
Netflix
great.
actually just released the first 5 minutes of the movie. I just saw it, so you should be able to find it pretty easily.
Oh, we'll do that. Cool.
But I just thought even the dialogue there when Maya says, you know, this is a great book, and I'm like, it's trash.
I loved it.
It's, you know, like, it's trashy horror. It's for myself. I thought that was a great introduction to an attitude going into this movie.
It was very meta, the same way the obvious comparisons to Scream, how it was very meta. And you come in, you're talking about a book, a trashy horror book, which this movie is based on. I mean, that's the kind of feeling of a horror movie that I just love. You know, both The Conjuring is great for the weightiness of it, but this is like, I have a hat that says I love 80s horror. I love schlocky, good, fun horror movies, and that's exactly what this is. A summer horror movie. It's perfect for what that is.
You know, it fascinates me that you guys, I don't know if you'll get into this, but that you guys love horror, because we met filming a Christian TV show. So how do you explain this, and how did this interest come up, and how, you know, how is that working in both fields? Is there any resistance?
Well, full disclosure, let's reveal. We first met you on the set of a TV show, a Christian television show, which apparently is coming out, I think, in November this year. And it was such a joy to be there. You guys were great. You were great on the horse and doing everything that you had to do. It was a lot of fun. But as far as that, I blame my parents. My mom and dad were both, my dad especially was a movie buff, horror fanatic. He took my mom to see The Exorcist on a date.
Wow.
She hasn't forgiven him to this day, though. But my mom does not like horror. My dad loves horror. And so I grew up and they were both the church people. Funny story, I've told this before, but I remember my very first horror movie was this little religious movie called The Omen, because it was free HBO weekend, and they said, "Oh, we thought it was a religious film." No, not so much. Let me just say this. We have a couple of people. Jonathan Wilkinson, good to see. He wanted to say hi.
Hi.
And then Brad, he goes, "She's turning the tables. I love it." I think
sorry, I don't mean to put the focus on you guys, but it's
not. But that's a great question. Yeah. We're both church people, and I do think that good horror can tell good stories. And as long as there's a glimmer of hope, I think you can tell a great story using horror. Plus, it's just darn fun. Cheeseman, I'm sorry, I didn't want to step all over you.
Yeah, I'll just quickly try to say, like, growing up, my favorite movie is Jaws, and still to this day is Jaws, which is considered, you know, like a monster type movie. And then I used to be like afraid of horror as a young kid, and I even asked like my mom to like tell them to not face the horror movies towards a certain way on the grocery aisle, because the little kids would see it, and it kind of freaked me out to see like Nightmare on Elm Street and all this other stuff. But when I was in middle school, my friend Jake started showing me a lot of horror movies, and then gave me a copy he made on VHS illegally through Blockbuster. And my mom ended up taking it away from me because I watched it too much, and I kept showing everybody the Scream movie. So like growing up, me and Jake watched a lot of horror movies, and then I kind of like wasn't as into it for a little bit, and then Jim was really into it here, and then kind of him and Brad, he was another friend that said hello on there, that kind of have been getting me more back into it, but I still kind of watched it along the way.
But look, you found that you can tell stories in horror that when people complain about how bad some horror is, and some of it is pretty bad, it's just not just quality, but it's just like, you don't want to like dwell on it so much. And so, but okay, well, let's go make some better stuff. You know, let's get involved and make good stuff. And I think that's, if I'm a person of faith and I say that's terrible stuff, all right, well then instead of complain, get involved and make something better. Because it is something I have loved. And so I wanted to find a way to balance the two. But we do have to put it back on you though, Charlene.
Yes.
What about yourself? I mean, you seem like I don't know. You seem like a very responsible, level-headed person, and the sweetest person that, you know, when we met you on set, it was fantastic. What about seeing you in a horror film? Might seem a little out of place. So what about you? When did you first start enjoying it?
Well, I did as a kid. I was a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Yes.
And for some reason, my mom let me watch all the Exorcist movies. I don't know why. You know, it's interesting because as a kid, I wasn't afraid. They didn't really scare me. It was thinking about it later, and as an adult, that I actually I pretty much don't watch them. As an actress, however, though, I take the jobs I can, and as long as they don't compromise any of my values, I'm grateful for every opportunity. And in both of these roles, I didn't have to do anything that was scary to me. You know, I was a mom in The Conjuring, and my little boy was getting tormented, you know, and that is something I can do. And in the opening sequence of Fear Street, I just got to play a stuck-up, nasty lady. So
that's so not you, though.
No, it isn't. It's
that's
not.
Great.
Yeah.
So we are kind of bumping up towards the end here. Luke, do you have any questions before we have to let her go?
I just want to bring up the experience on How I Met Your Mother. I used to do a lot of extra work when I first moved to LA. I don't know if is there an echo?
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Now it's fine. But I used to work as a movie extra when I first moved to California. And one of my favorite shows to work on was How I Met Your Mother. So a lot of times was a bar patron there. So there's a chance. I haven't looked back because I saw there's a montage of all your scenes. I'll have to look to see if I was one of the extras in one of your scenes. But it was such a fun set to be on. What was it like for you, working on that show?
It was an incredibly fun set to be on. And before How I Met Your Mother, the only sitcom experience I had was on a show called Joey, which was the spinoff of Friends. So at that time, because it was 2005 that, I first got on How I Met Your Mother, I didn't even realize what a blessing it was and how different other sets could feel. I mean, even just being on a comedy versus a drama. But yeah, it was constant jokes, is very light atmosphere, very nice people from the top down. And I think that is what makes a difference on long running shows. You kind of know they all get reputations. So you kind of know going into them, the creators or the showrunners, if it's a tough set to be on or if it's a nice set. And I feel very lucky that it was such a jovial, fun experience, which you apparently know as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for the time that I got to be on that show.
Well, let's do questions here, and Luke, you can jump in as well. But we try to on this podcast talk about things from a filmmaker's perspective, and since we are coming to you straight from the heart of Hollywood here, if you had to give advice to people who are trying to break in, people who are trying to navigate what can sometimes be a pretty, not the easiest of professions, by far, and because it's hard. And I know that you probably have, for every success, you probably have a horror story that you could relate to us as well. But like, for somebody wanting to come to Hollywood and somebody who wants not to get eaten up by the nastiness of it, what would be your advice?
Well, first and foremost, I think you really have to love it. If you're doing it for any other reason than love for the craft of acting, it really has the potential to beat you up and break you down. It's a hard business. There's a lot of people doing it. It's extremely competitive, and there's no real straight avenue to get to where you want to go. So, unlike any other profession, like, okay, you could go to college and become a doctor and follow these steps. It's, you move out here, you could do all the right things and maybe never get a break. So if you're doing it because you love the craft, there's always a way to do it. You could make your own content. You can be in place, and as you pursue getting a good agent and the professional side of things, hopefully that will all fall in place too. I do think that hard work gets noticed and over time, but I think it is a career of persistence.
And my last question, and let me see, and we have one comment from Brad. He says he has a lot of friends on horror-themed shows and films, and a lot of them had to warn or have conversations with their parents prior to them seeing their projects. Did you ever have to do that?
No, I haven't had to do that, thankfully. Yeah, no. I when I first started acting, I did get offered some roles that were, they were asking to reveal things, and it was easy for me to turn down because they were independent films that I just got bad feelings about, and I didn't want to do that anyway. So that would be maybe the case where I'd have to talk to my family about. Yeah. So no, I've been lucky. I haven't always been proud of the things I've done. It's a learning curve too. So sometimes I feel like, maybe I was overacting there or something, but not anything that I'd have to warn my parents.
That's cool. I haven't always been proud of everything I've written, that's for sure. But I was so proud to have worked with you on a project that we hope to announce coming out soon. So that's going to be.
What's it called, Jim? What's this project called? I don't know if we've
Are we
said
allowed?
its name.
Okay, Sons of Thunder. It's coming out. It's going to come out.
Sons of Thunder Redemption. It's season 2 of a show called Sons of Thunder.
You're better at remembering these things than I am. Yeah, I hope we can talk about that soon. But I just want to. My last question is about The Conjuring and Fear Street. If you had to be pitching these movies to the audiences out there, why should they come see The Conjuring if they love good horror? And what is it about Fear Street that you think they should check out?
I have always thought the Conjuring movies are the best in their genre. I think they're so well done, and they're based on real stories. This last one, I think, also has an element that plays out like a little bit of a murder mystery, which I think is fun and interesting. And I think that the fact that the case deals with a historic case, and before this case, there was nobody that would have ever been tried for murder for being possessed. And so in that, it's pretty interesting. And for Fear Street, I think it's kind of like a popcorn eating, fun, nostalgic experience, especially for anyone who's alive during the 90s.
That is true. But have you seen all of the first episode of Fear Street yet?
Yes.
All right, then you won't be. There are some grisly death scenes, which I was like, "Holy crap!" They surprised us. But it's grisly, but it sounds morbid in a kind of funny kind of way. But let's not go there. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Luke, anything else before we end today?
Yeah. So can you tell us about you have a part in one of the upcoming ones? Can you tell us a little bit about what's to come on that one for you?
Are you talking about the upcoming Fear Street?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm also in a R.L. Stine TV show called Just Beyond.
Oh, let's hear about that too.
Yes, we'd love to hear her.
Okay. So Fear Street 3, so each one, as you guys probably know, takes different times periods. So it's in 1666, and it really pretty much explains what's been going on through all these movies with witchcraft and burning at the stake and that kind of thing. So I play a townswoman in that time period who is witnessing some drama. So that's what happens in that's my part in that. And in R.L. Stine's TV show that is for Disney Plus that will be out in November. It's called Just Beyond, and I'm in the pilot. And I play a very quirky, fun teacher in this show who is dealing with kids who are out of control, and I'm basically pulling my hair out trying to get them to calm down. So that was so much fun because, you know, my hair was pretty much like Helen Bonham Carter, you know, all the curls, like, you know, they're just driving me nuts. And it's just kind of a coincidence that I got to do 2 of his projects.
I can't wait to see that. I don't know if I was aware. I actually did hear that. Yeah, Disney Plus having an Earl Stein project. That you're in that. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see that.
Thank you. Me too. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
We have so enjoyed talking with you today. This has been so much fun. Thank you for being so great on the project we worked on together. But thank you for adding a chill to the air of summer because it's so hot and these are fun shows. And The Conjuring is a series that I hold dear to my heart because I just think it treats the subject matter of what it's dealing with in a scary but very spiritually responsible way. I just think it's great. And if people want to find out what you are working on, what's coming up, and where can they follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at Charlene.Amoia, and I'm also on Facebook.
All right. Cheeseman.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at CheeseOnCouch and also on thescareguy.com.
And you can just find me here at thescareguy.com or James D. Fry on Instagram. My Instagram started acting funny recently, and it looks like somebody might have stolen it away from me, but I'm going to fight to keep that thing. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. Make sure you go check out Charlene when she's right now. She's out in theaters in The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It, and she just popped on Netflix's Fear Street. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys have a chance to check those out. Enjoy your summer, and we will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me, guys.
So glad to have you.